Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Ian, and today we're diving into an interesting chapter of Canadian history. Canada's rural decline versus urban boom during the baby boom era. This period shaped our demographic destiny in ways that still influence real estate, economics, and how we live today. We'll explore the economic shift from farms to cities and how rural land was sold off to fuel suburban expansion. If you're interested in understanding why our cities look the way they do today or how these changes have affected property values, stick around. Picture Canada right after World War II. The war had ended in 1945 and soldiers were coming home. Families were reuniting, and suddenly there was this explosion in birth rates. From 1946 to 1965, what we call the baby boom, Canada's population jumped from about 12 million to 18 million. That's a massive increase, over 50% in less than 2 decades. This wasn't just more people, it was a demographic wave that demanded more housing, jobs, schools, and infrastructure. But where did all these families go? Not back to the farms. Instead, they headed to the cities and the brand new suburbs sprouting up around them. To understand why, we need to look at the bigger picture of urbanization in Canada. Back in 1851, nearly 90% of Canadians lived in rural areas, tied to agriculture and resource extraction. Farms were the backbone of the economy, but over the next century, that completely flipped. By the 1920s and the 1930s, the rural share had dropped below 50%, and the trend accelerated after the war. By 2011, only about 19% of us were rural, but the real shift happened in those post-war decades. Why? Well, economics played a huge role. During the war, Canada ramped up industrial production for the Allies, factories churning out planes, tanks, and supplies. When peace came, that momentum didn't just stop. The economy boomed with growth in manufacturing, services, and construction. Jobs were in the cities now, not on the land. On the rural side, things were changing fast. Farming mechanized. Tractors, combines, and better fertilizers meant fewer hands were needed on the farm. In Saskatchewan, for example, the average farm size doubled from 200 acres in 1914 to 400 by 1936 and hit over 600 by 1956. Farms consolidated. Small operations just couldn't compete. Young people left for urban opportunities and rural populations stagnated or declined. From the 1940s to the 1970s, rural areas saw steady outflows. Nationally, between 1941 and 1951, the rural population grew by just 4%, while urban areas exploded by 34%. By the 1960s, rural Canada was losing hundreds of thousands to migration. This wasn't just numbers, it meant empty schools, closing stores, and aging communities. Meanwhile, cities were transforming. The economic shift from agriculture to industry and services pulled people in. Urban economies became about offices, retail, and factories. But cities themselves were crowded, especially with the baby boom and immigrants arriving, over 1 million Europeans in the 1950s alone. Housing was in crisis. That's where suburbs came in. Post-war, the federal government stepped up, even though planning isn't their jurisdiction. In 1944, the Curtis Report laid out a vision: build 1 million affordable homes in planned communities for veterans and families. They created the Central Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, in 1946 to ensure long-term low-interest mortgages. This made homeownership possible for the middle class. Now, these suburbs weren't random, they were designed. CMHC pushed modernist layouts, curvy streets, cul-de-sacs centered on schools, to create safe, family-friendly neighborhoods. Developers built quickly, using wartime know-how, offering detached homes with yards at lower cost than city living. Rural land on city edges was prime for this. Farms sold off cheaply to make way for subdivisions. Places like Ottawa or Vancouver, what was once farmland, became rows of bungalows and Cape Cod houses. Cars made it work. With highways expanding, dads could commute to city jobs while families enjoyed space. From a real estate perspective, this was revolutionary. Before the war, owning a home was tough. Short mortgages with high down payments. CMHC changed that, backing 25-year loans with as little as 10% down. Suburbs boomed because land was affordable on the outskirts, but it came at a cost. Rural communities lost vitality, and suburbs locked in car dependency. Zoning kept things residential, resisting mixed use that could have made them more walkable. This demographic destiny reshaped Canada. The baby boom urbanized us, turning a rural nation into a suburban one. Thanks for watching. If this sparked your interest in Canadian real estate history, like and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Out of everything you're seeing in today's economy, how do you see Canada's real estate landscape evolving over the next decade? I'll see you on the next one.